Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Got a Minute More, the 9th episode. Kevin, we've now done this podcast 9 times.
That seems like too many times.
It's probably like 8 or 9 times too many, actually.
I would say 9 times too many, yeah.
I really just wanted to make the Ferris Bueller reference. Today on the show, we're going to talk about some of the movies that have come out in March. Obviously, the blockbuster season seems to have started a little earlier than usual. Well, I guess maybe not after last year with Black Panther coming out in like February. But Captain Marvel has come out and has set the world on fire, basically. Well, the box office world anyway. We also have the brand new Jordan Peele movie, Us, which is... well, we'll talk about what it is. And we'll get to a couple of other things as well. But let's start, actually, Kevin, with Captain Marvel. I understand that you actually went and saw it a second time?
I did, yeah. So the first time I saw it, I felt like a lot of the movie off the top really kind of dragged. The dream sequency stuff and the early portion of her interactions with Fury, I thought we're just moving a little slow. On second watch, I don't feel that way anymore.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I really liked, I guess you could say there's sort of a buddy cop dynamic to the Sam Jackson, Brie Larson duo that develops there early on in the movie. What I kind of liked about it too was that they didn't linger too long on the nostalgia porn stuff. There are a couple of very quick references to 90s era, franchises, or not franchises, but I guess store chains. Obviously the Blockbuster one that you've seen in the trailer, and then there's a reference to another very well-known
Radio Shack
electronics outlet. Yeah, I'll just say Radio Shack. Fine, it's not really a spoiler. They didn't go too heavy on that stuff. She's wearing a Nine Inch Nails t-shirt. It's just kind of set in the 90s. And I was a little worried from watching the trailers that they were going to go hard on that stuff. Thankfully, they kind of didn't.
Yeah, exactly. And those references happen relatively quickly to each other. So there was a point where I was like, oh no, this is really too much too fast. But
yeah, this is what they're going to do for the rest of the movie. And
yeah,
that's about it.
They eventually just got off it. And her wearing a Nine Inch Nails t-shirt is just a way into my heart because, as you know, I love Nine Inch Nails and Trent Reznor. I've seen Nine Inch Nails live 12 times.
Yeah, I've never actually seen them live, but I am a big fan. I actually just picked up the Downward Spiral on vinyl because I'm a hipster now, apparently. That's how that works. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot to like about the movie. I thought Brie Larson was very good. Not at her absolute best. I mean, obviously Room is pretty much peak Brie Larson right there. She doesn't get to do quite as much as she did in that movie. Obviously not remotely close to what she did in that movie acting wise, but she's still a solid choice. And I really liked her as that character. There's, I don't know, there's a toughness and a vulnerability about the character at once.
Yeah, exactly. There's enough humanity there, especially when she, I don't know exactly how far we want to dive into it, but when she meets people from her past, right? There's a lot of humanity in those scenes, and it works really well.
I might as well get into spoiler territory here. Go ahead.
Sure. So she ends up at the farm of the, I can't remember the character's name, but someone who she was best friends with before she was transformed into Captain Marvel, basically. Right.
Someone she came up through the ranks of the Air Force with.
Mm-hmm. And she doesn't remember her. She doesn't remember anything from her past, but those scenes really humanize her, especially her interactions with the other woman's small child. It's great.
Yeah. And actually that child is quite good too. Does lead me to one of my minor gripes about the movie, and I know this didn't bother you as much, but there was one little thing with the daughter. Yeah, I'm gonna bring it up, Kevin. Okay. Where it was like she's so in awe of Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, Brie Larson's character, that she kind of pushes her mom aside, despite the fact that she basically sends her at the end of the movie on a suicide mission, what seems like a suicide mission. I would have liked to have seen her pay a little bit more attention to her mom at the end of the movie. Just one. I felt like there was just like one shot missing where it's like, Mom, I'm so proud of you kind of thing. Maybe not so on the nose as that, but I just want something like that implies that she's so proud of her mom for taking on this, incredible suicide mission. and then coming back alive as well. Like something that she didn't have to do, but her daughter actually kind of like, Mom, you got to do this, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I understand where you're coming from. My counter is just that her preoccupation with Carol Danvers in that moment is totally justifiable. Carol Danvers has literally come back from the dead and become the most powerful entity in the galaxy,
Yeah,
basically.
for sure.
So I think it's totally fine for her to just be preoccupied with, holy shit, look at that.
Still, even after that moment, or somewhere in the middle, I don't know, somewhere, just put in that moment where she like gives her mom a hug or something like that. Like, just imply I'm proud of you too, like,
Yeah.
because you're my mom and you're the one that I look up to first. Lashana Lynch, by the way, was the mother of that one character. I can't remember the daughter's name though, but it's Maria is the mom of that character, and she out of nowhere was really really good. I'd never seen Lashana Lynch before. I think she's a British actress.
Yeah,
And she was really solid in that role.
Yeah, and I one of the reasons that I assumed that you would have liked that particular scene is because then it's kind of like acknowledging that, normal women can be heroes as well, that kind of ideal.
Yeah, which is kind of the message that, they should be going for, I think, as well as, if you want to take up the mantle of Captain Marvel, you don't have to have the superpowers, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me that scene is the montage when she first realizes her power, and they do. I know you never really watched the show, but Buffy the Vampire Slayer is the first thing that sprung to mind. In the finale of Buffy, there's a very similar montage where Buffy is monologuing about like how she's going to transition her power into every woman, basically.
Right.
And there's a montage of like little girls at bat in like Little League, and so in Captain Marvel there's the montage of her crashing her go-kart and then getting back up, getting brushed off the plate in Little League and getting back up, and like, so that was where that message hit with me.
Right.
So I didn't necessarily need the acknowledgement of the mom. I think we get that acknowledgement from Nick Fury when they're sitting at the dinner table after they've come back from the mission, and Fury is like, wow, that was really incredible flying. Like, you have a job with S.H.I.E.L.D. anytime you want it. So, like, he's acknowledging that she's a hero, and they've acknowledged that, like, all women can be heroes in other ways in the movie. So I think it's fine to not have it. Take or leave, it wouldn't have really changed much for me, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, that montage of her just getting back up, it hit so hard for me. I thought that was such a good little message throughout, because there's those little flashback scenes sort of throughout the movie where you see her past, and it always seems to be like a failure for her. And then they cut this together in the way that where she's just getting back up and trying again and fighting through. And you see that sort of heroic quality has been there all along. I thought that was really well done. Sort of takes the shine off it a little bit for me, because I've seen other people now make reference to the Buffy thing and say that was almost pulled right out of that show. But to
really
me, it sounds like the message is a little bit different.
In a way, yeah, I guess. Like, Buffy's is more about like her imbuing women with power, and I guess Captain Marvel's is more the power was always there.
Before the explosion even, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to, before we get into Us, let's make very quick mention of a very, very large movie that was released on Netflix recently, Triple Frontier. Huge cast, Ben Affleck, Oscar Isaacs. Is it Isaac or Isaacs? I always blow that. I think it's just Isaac, isn't it? It's like,
yeah, it is.
Anyway, I blew it. Oscar Isaac, sorry, you're great. Both of those guys are great in the movie, and the rest of the movie is just it's well, I'll let you explain, Kev.
Yeah, so I was actually really excited for this when I heard about it. J.C. Chandor directed and wrote it. He did A Most Violent Year, which I thought was super overlooked from 5 years ago now. Also starring Oscar Isaac, and this was a movie.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's not bad. It's a movie. It's perfectly fine.
Cromulent.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Cromulent. Yeah, okay. All right, that's about enough on Triple Frontier.
Yep.
I mean, I really have nothing more to say about it either. I will say, you know what, and you mentioned this in your review of it as well, some of the cinematography is absolutely astounding.
Mm-hmm.
And now we can move on because we're done. We've got nothing else to say. Okay, so let's move on to the other big movie that was released just this week. Jordan Peele's Us. It's his second movie. Of course, Get Out came out in 2017. And much to most people's surprise, it was one of the best horror movies or thriller movies. Let's say it's not quite a horror movie, released in ages.
Yeah. It really kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, if you know Jordan Peele from Key and Peele, it was a very odd concept to hear that he was making a horror movie as his first movie, and then to have it be so good, like Academy Award winning for best screenplay. It was pretty wild, and so yeah, there's a ton of hype around this one. What was he going to do to follow this up?
Yeah, for sure. And to my mind, so this is where the suspense comes in for me, because I really don't know yet what you think. You and I saw it separately. Mm-hmm. I wrote the review on Thursday night, released it on Friday morning. You went and saw it Friday afternoon, I believe.
Yeah, actually Friday morning before I had to go to work.
Well, there you go. So I absolutely love the movie. I thought it was not quite as good as Get Out. Maybe that's just because the surprise is gone. I thought that large stretches of it, and I say this in the review, I thought large stretches or long stretches of it were better than anything that was in Get Out. But overall, not quite as good. Still a great movie, though. Kevin?
Okay.
Let's take the blanket off here.
I thought the movie was really excellent, and I think it's better than Get Out.
Oh. Okay, so it's not as dramatic a thing as man, because there was some suspense there.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys felt it if you were listening, but I was like, "What? Kevin didn't like it?" In my head, I don't know. I went with the worst case scenario. Okay, so explain.
I think it's better than Get Out. This might just be my bias, as you know, I'm a gigantic horror movie fan.
Yes, you are.
This, I think, is just a better out-and-out horror movie.
I would agree with that. It's far more horror-ific.
Yeah, it's way scarier and way more intense. Like this movie, the thing I absolutely love about it is the opening 25 minutes or so are relatively slow. We're doing a nice like build and getting to know everybody, and then there's a moment that happens where suddenly we're in it, and then the movie just does not stop the whole rest of the way.
No, that's absolutely true. I mean, once the wheels start turning, oh man. Great opening sequence, and then it slows down a little bit and sort of introduces the family. I'm not going to try and spoil anything yet, but yeah, as you say, as soon as that moment happens, just right through it's probably about an hour and a half, because it's really maybe in a half an hour into the movie that this moment happens, and then things just go from there. So an hour and a half of just absolute intense, suspenseful, horrific, crazy shit.
So the movie that I think in some ways it most closely resembles is a movie like The Strangers or Funny Games or things like that.
Right.
And as you know, I hate The Strangers. I know that's become like a cult classic in a lot of ways. I despise that movie. And part of the reason I despise it is because if you actually watch it and treat it not as a horror movie, but as a depiction of things that are actually happening, which is what a movie should be. Nothing that anyone does in that movie makes a lick of sense. Yeah, like the killers will just like walk behind the people they're stalking and then vanish for no reason. It's literally just there to scare the audience. Right. And it's not like, it doesn't make any actual sense. So with Us, when we get to the like action, it's like it all starts, and literally, I think it was like 3 minutes into it, I was like, "Oh, how the hell are we doing another 90 minutes from here? Like,
Right.
we're already at like the breaking point."
Yeah, we're at a 10.
Yeah, like, and then it just kept going, and it was, yeah, it was super intense. And I need to say, I love Daniel Kaluuya. I love Michelle Williams in the original. Lupita Nyong'o blows them both out of the water here. She is
Yeah.
unbelievably good in this movie.
So we have to say this right off the bat too. So we were both pissed that Toni Collette was not nominated for her performance in Hereditary last year. There is no way that Lupita Nyong'o is not getting an Oscar nomination for this movie.
I mean, there is a way, but
No,
there's no
I'm
way
saying
she
there is
shouldn't get
no
one.
way. No, there's no way. It's happening for her for this movie, and I'm calling it now. I'm calling it in March. You will see her name as one of the final 5.
Yeah, I mean, she is unreal. It's just a great performance.
Like its performance is too. That's the crazy thing. She fully embodies 2 characters. Okay, so let's get into spoiler territory here. If you've seen the trailer, you know that what the basis of this movie is, that the event that we've been sort of hinting at is when the family is at their summer home or at a rental home or wherever this is for them, they are all of a sudden encountering a family who looks exactly like them. They just randomly show up in their driveway in the middle of the night. And that family then, that other family then takes this main family, the real family, if you want to call them that, hostage, and things just go batshit crazy from there.
Yeah,
Now,
and
so Lupita Nyong'o is playing 2 versions of herself, as Winston Duke is, as the 2 kids are, neither of whose names I can remember, but they're both very good. And she especially, and Lupita Nyong'o, just absolutely hammers both characters. Like, oh my God, I could not stop watching her. I don't think I blinked for that entire first encounter between the 2.
yeah, I just her voice alone for the evil version of herself,
The mirror version, if you want to call
is
it that.
crazy.
I guess
Just
we should call
crazy.
it the tethered version, because that's what they
Yeah.
call themselves.
So like just her voice alone for the tethered version of herself is just insane. Like,
I was trying to
it's
figure out what
so-
she was doing, to make that voice. I feel like she's inhaling.
I
in
think
order
so,
to, like,
yeah.
speaking while inhaling. Like I can't really.
Yeah, I
do
mean
it.
that's essentially it. Yeah.
Yeah, which is, I mean, the mirror version of a person on the top side of the world, I guess, breathing out in order to speak. So I guess it makes sense. Anyway,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's absolutely haunting. I was just blown away by her performance in that, and that scene. Honestly, I'm not even joking about the blinking thing, because and it was probably maybe halfway through the scene where I realized, shit, I haven't blinked in about 6-7 minutes. It was crazy. And then it just gets even more nuts from there.
Yeah, it just keeps going. And then there's also a ton of really fun reveals with different things.
Mm-hmm.
Because
you're not sure if it's isolated to them or if it's the whole world, and that just sort of slowly revealed as well after some great little horror moments as well at that cabin.
Yeah, and then the like flashback that explains what the one like major plot twist is something that I did see coming for basically the entire movie.
Yeah.
But I did really love the flashback still, not so much because of that, but because it explains different things. And once you start to like put pieces together of how that explains different things, like for example, now that we're in spoilers, and I guess we'll do like heavy spoilers here.
Okay, major.
So Lupita Nyong'o's character actually being the evil version of herself the whole time.
Right.
Explains why she's the only evil one that speaks.
Mm-hmm.
And I did love as well the fact that it explains why her voice is like that.
Yeah.
I loved the flashback that explained that, like, just made little things seem so relevant, like when they show the flashback and you see her ass and you see her dad winning her a prize, and she says, I want number 11. And it's just
Right.
like, oh shit, the 1111 thing that they've been, there's just like so many little things that he ties so brilliantly together in the end of it. I thought it was really spectacular.
You've got the one guy on the beach who is also at that carnival in the early scene holding the Jeremiah 11:11 sign. At one point at the cabin, the son sees 11:11 on the clock and points it out, and Lupita Nyong'o sort of freaks out about it a little bit.
Yeah, and the evil characters are coming with like a pair of scissors, which is essentially an 11, and same thing. As she's in that flashback, she's also walking past people who are playing rock paper scissors.
Yeah,
and they're constantly tying because they always throw scissors.
Yep.
There's just like so many little touches that just like, if you're picking up on things, it makes it so much fun at the end.
Yeah, there are a ton of hints in that. I mean, as you said, this is the one thing that sort of dragged the movie down for me. That twist was very much telegraphed, even if you leave those hints aside. It's sort of fun to pick up on those hints afterwards and think back to them and say, oh yeah, so that actually makes sense. And yes, they were clearly teeing it up. But it felt like it was coming right from the start of the movie. Honestly,
yeah.
It's like, so what's the twist going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like it's predictable if you understand the kind of movie that it's trying to be like. But I don't necessarily think it's a problem that's predictable. Like I don't think you have to treat that as like some crazy plot twist that like, it didn't need to be they were dead all along or whatever, right? Like it can just be like a thing that they've been working on for the entire movie, and then they reveal like, oh, by the way, this.
Yeah. I think I need to see it again too. The other thing that that sort of stuck out to me was there's a very long expository scene towards the end that sort of explains the twist in a way, or at least explains how this massive uprising of the tethered people, the underworld people coming to the surface got started. And I found that went on a little too long. It was a little too much tell and not show kind of situation. That for me is the one real sticking point in the movie, is that scene was just way too long.
So what I would say to that is, typically with horror movies, you always get that scene. It's very rare that you get like a horror movie that doesn't feature some like exposition dumped towards the end explaining what's been happening the whole time.
Even in Get Out, you have the scene where Daniel Kaluuya sitting and watching the TV, and what's his name, Steven.
Right.
Steven, one of the greatest character actors ever, whose name I'm forgetting. Anyway, he explains it. Stephen Root, Office Space.
Yes.
Anyway, Stephen Root, the great Stephen Root. I love you. If you're listening.
So yeah, so what I would say. So what I would say for this is, the reason that didn't bother me was because Lupita Nyong'o is absolutely unbelievable in that scene, and I thought the framing of that scene was fucking spectacular. Like just having her face like basically pressed against the like far right side of the lens and be in focus and have other Lupita Nyong'o in the background. It was it was spectacular.
But it literally took the tethered, as it turns out, evil version of Lupita Nyong'o a good 7 minutes just to walk up 3 desks worth of space. So there's that. But that's a movie contrivance, right? That you're never going to get away with those, or get away from those rather.
Yes. So yeah, like I thought it was brilliant. I think it's like, it's different than Get Out, because Get Out had a very clear like message, and this is just trying to be a horror movie more than it's trying to be like, very pointed about different things.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a coded allegorical thing going on there, which kind of gets hit hard on the head or pointed out very clearly when in the cabin sequence or the summer home sequence where they first encounter the tethered family, Lupita Nyong'o, the topside version of her says, "What are you?" or "Who are you?" and the tethered version says, "We are Americans."
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, oh, okay, so we're doing a thing where, you know, in every one of us, there's, you know, this terrible side that can come out, and this is American society right now, and where, you know, we're so quick to anger and blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's not hit anywhere near as hard as the messages that are in Get Out, but it's still there throughout, especially tied together, I guess, with the Hands Across America thing.
Yeah, and I like the fact that there is something there, but beyond just being spooks. But yeah, I just say as an out and out horror movie, I enjoyed it more, and that's my favorite type of movie. So I ended up in the end, I found more enjoyment in this than Get Out. Both are absolutely brilliant. I can't wait to see. I hope he keeps doing this. I hope he keeps I hope he keeps doing horror movies, because he very, very clearly has a knack for it. And, you know, we've spoken privately. I don't think we've spoken on the podcast about this. This is a really, really, really big year for horror movies. Basically any horror director over the last 5 or 6 years that has been called like the future of horror filmmaking has a new movie coming out at some point this year. There's I can't remember his name off the top of my head. The director of The Witch has a new horror movie coming out called The Lighthouse. Ari Aster, director of Hereditary, has a new horror movie coming out. Guillermo del Toro has a horror movie coming out. Jordan Peele had one. And it's possible that Jennifer Kent, the director of The Babadook, is going to have one. She's working on one right now with...
I didn't know about that one.
She's working on one right now with Guillermo del Toro as well, would be like working on it with her. But I don't know if they're going to have that done by this year.
How many projects does Guillermo del Toro have on the go, honestly? Like 20?
He has a lot right now.
He's kind of the master. All right. So Us gets high recommendations from both of us. I honestly, next to Get Out, it's like right there. It's right there.
Yeah, I think it's
not
very
quite as good.
I think it's very slightly better. And yeah, basically the whole reason I was running that down is just to say, like, Us has now set the benchmark for all those movies. Like, that's what everyone has to beat now this year. And it's a really, really high bar.
Yeah, for sure. All right, moving on. You know, speaking of Ari Aster and Midsommar, there was a trailer released for that recently. You did actually watch that trailer, didn't you?
Yes, I actually did watch that trailer.
You guys have to understand, for those of you who are not familiar with us in person, Kevin and I do not watch trailers for movies that we already know we're going to see. Kevin, you rarely watch trailers, period. But I especially stick to the ones, avoid the ones rather, that I know that I'm already going to see.
So basically what drew me to it is I saw people talking about it and how different it felt from a traditional horror, and I just wanted to see, like, get a sense of what they meant by it. So I don't think I actually even finished watching the trailer. I think I watched like the opening 30-35 seconds and then probably turned it off. So I didn't see much because the trailer was very slow. But yeah, I mean, like, I guess people are pointing to the fact that this is a horror movie that is taking place in, like, bright sunshine, fully lit, like, super colorful settings. It's happening in, like, an open field in day in, I can't remember if it's, like, Denmark or somewhere like that. And as well as that, a lot of people have pointed out the fact that the letterboxing on the trailer is done in white instead of black to really accentuate just how bright the screen is at all times.
Right.
Which I thought was a really cool touch.
Very interesting. Yeah, I have not watched that myself. As you know if you listen to the podcast, Hereditary was both of our favorite movies of last year. So essentially, Ari Aster already has my money. I do not need to see a trailer. But on the topic of trailers, there have been a lot that have come out recently. So Kevin and I, having not seen any of these trailers, are going to go through 4 of the big ones that have come out recently, and give you what we think is our description of what happens in those trailers.
Okay.
So, Kev, let's start with Avengers Endgame.
Sure. So this trailer features a lot of solemn monologuing from all of our main players, Iron Man,
sure.
Captain America, about the end of the world and how they need to find a way to fight back or whatever. And then you see glimpses of Thanos to remind you of what's happened. And then you see probably Captain Marvel as like the glimmer of hope.
Yep.
And then I doubt they're showing much more than that, because to be honest, you don't even need to show that. I think I saw this week the Russo brothers came out and said like half the shots in the trailer are fake. They're not in the movie.
Oh, I love that.
Because they don't, like, no one needs to see a trailer for this.
Well, they did a great job with Infinity War of keeping things very vague. None of us really had an idea of what the plot of that movie was going to be, besides, obviously, Thanos coming and the Avengers having to, somehow try and stop him. We had no idea if it was going to be a team-up effort or who was going to team up with whom. If, as it turns out, everyone has their own sort of solo mission, or at least, small pairings or groups of people are off on their own separate adventures trying to get the pieces together. So, yeah, I mean, them throwing in fake shots, them throwing in shots that are on the cutting room floor, maybe, that sort of thing. That's a great idea for an trailer, because it teases people's imaginations. It whets their appetite without giving anything away, and that's something. This is the reason that you and I don't watch trailers.
So it's actually ironic that we've been talking about Jordan Peele, and I'm sure he's not to blame for this, but the trailer that really made me say no more was the trailer to Get Out.
Yeah.
Because if you go back,
plot is there.
Yeah, if you go back and watch that movie, that is almost scene for scene the entire movie, except for like one reveal. Yeah, it's literally in order.
It's true.
It's a wild trailer. Yeah, and there's another super bad one recently. Velvet Buzzsaw, the Netflix movie with Jake Gyllenhaal. That trailer is a nightmare.
Yeah, so is the movie, to be fair.
I mean, the movie wasn't very good either, but the trailer just gives like everything away. It even shows you all the characters dying.
Yeah, I just stop doing that. Another one that we I think have very, very, very high hopes for, because we're both big fans of Quentin Tarantino. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm gonna guess that we get some establishing shots of that area of Hollywood. Or that era of Hollywood, rather. We meet our main characters, Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. And then we're slowly introduced to the large ensemble cast, sort of one by one, maybe with title cards. I'm going to guess with the character names as opposed to the actors' names. Because
I would assume so, yeah.
I really think Tarantino's going to want to establish who the people are playing as opposed to who they are, because there's some massive names. Obviously, Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate is probably a big one. And we'll get we'll get some montages of the action back and forth between, and some funny shit and some scary shit, and then a date. Because you have to have a date.
I'll add one more thing. I would say that trailer either does not show Charles Manson at all, or has the last image of the trailer just be the first, like a single shot of Charles Manson.
Yeah, almost certainly.
This is very easy to do, by the way, because trailers really suck. They're very predictable.
On that subject too, we'll do a couple of more quickly, but on that subject, I'm going to link on gotaminute.reviews.com the version that's embedded into the website. I'm going to link you guys to a little fake movie trailer from the fine folks at Oral Knots over on YouTube. If you're looking for it without going to Spreaker, if you listen to us on Apple or Spotify or Google, just hit Oral Knots blockbuster movie trailer. Oral Knots is AURALNAUTS, and watch that, because it's absolutely perfect description of how pretty much every blockbuster movie trailer is put together. This one I suspect is probably a little bit different though, Kevin. Toy Story 4.
Yeah, I would assume Toy Story 4, it opens with like just basic. I would assume that the first like 20 seconds or so is just like generic shots where you wouldn't really tell what it is, and then you would see like some new toys. So it still hasn't fully revealed what it is, but you get a sense of what it is, and then like, I don't know, 35, 40 seconds in, you finally see Woody or something.
Right.
And then
from there, it's just nonstop.
Establishes whatever the movie is about.
Right. Nonstop story action. By the way, Jordan Peele and Keegan-Michael Key voicing characters in that movie, as is Keanu Reeves, and he is the next one that we'll do here. It's John Wick Chapter 3.
For John Wick Chapter 3, I would imagine that, given where we left off, it's a whole lot of like epic, how is he going to survive this type speeches from different people, and you see him being chased by everyone.
I'm going to guess that the first voice that you hear in the trailer is Ian McShane, Winston, who, of course, the proprietor of the Continental Hotel in New York City, at least, and the one who gave him the what's it called? Not persona non grata. What was it? Excommunicado order.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Who actually excommunicated him from this community of assassins. And then, we're slowly introduced to a couple of new characters.
Yeah, Halle Berry would be the end introduction. She'd be like the thing that they're holding off on and ending the trailer on, is him meeting her, basically, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think it might be either be her or maybe Angelica Houston, because of course Angelica Houston is the big bad, I think, in this movie as well, right? Isn't she the one who's like running that secret society, the round table or whatever it's called?
Yeah, I guess it would depend on what Angelica Houston's character is. It's possible they just don't want to show her anywhere in that trailer. It's possible she's not even in it. I'm
just glad that she's back, because I absolutely love Angelica Houston. All right. On that note, too, so Keanu Reeves, John Wick 3, Parabellum is the name of that movie. We were thinking about it. It's been a big week for Keanu Reeves reveals, basically. So we talked about John Wick 3, Toy Story 4. We didn't talk about the fact that Keanu Reeves is also voicing a doll, an action figure in Toy Story 4. He's playing a character called Duke Kaboom, who is a Canadian superhero, I believe.
Love it.
By the way, I read online somebody saying they should have got somebody Canadian to play him. I don't know how to tell you this, but he's from Toronto. What else for Keanu? Oh, yeah. He and Alex Winter teamed up to reveal the fact that Bill and Ted 3 is in the works and will actually be out in theaters next year, apparently. And finally, later this week, as we record this, The Matrix turns 20 years old, a movie that, regardless of your feelings on it, Kevin, we'll get to that on a later podcast. Kevin, if you don't know this already, has a very hot take about The Matrix.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah. See, there it is. We'll dig deeper into that the next time. But that movie turns 20, which is insane to think that movie came out 20 years ago. So we wanted to try something a little bit new on this podcast, something we haven't done before, a segment that we're calling BFF. It's not Best Friends Forever. It is Best, Favorite, and Finest. So to explain this, Kevin and I are each going to give our opinion of what Keanu Reeves' best movie is, what our favorite movie featuring Keanu Reeves is, and what we think is Keanu Reeves' finest performance. So, Kevin, we'll start with you. What do you think Keanu Reeves' best movie is?
Well, we've already established that I'm sure most people would say The Matrix, and I hate The Matrix. So, my pick for best Keanu Reeves movie is, in fact, John Wick.
Yeah. So I'm very close to you on this, actually. As much as I love The Matrix, and I am a very big fan of it, John Wick Chapter 2 for me.
Okay.
I rank that one just a little above John Wick, and then probably The Matrix after that for number 3. It's just something so completely special about that movie. I was not expecting it to be anywhere near as good as the first one, and it actually ended up being better. It's a movie that I go back to pretty often. It's only been out a couple of years now. I must have watched it a good 10, 15 times. So moving on. Favorite movie?
So for favorite, it would also probably be John Wick, but because I didn't want to do that, I didn't want to be that guy, I chose something that I think a lot of people might have missed, or it's entirely possible that a lot of people haven't seen, that I think is I don't think it's a particularly great movie, but I think it's a really interesting watch to see at least once. So I chose A Scanner Darkly as favorite.
Richard Linklater.
Yeah, Richard Linklater directed it, and I can't remember what the actual term for the technology used, but basically they filmed the entire movie. Yeah, rotoscoping.
Sorry,
they filmed yeah, that's fine. They filmed the entire movie and then used this method to basically make the entire movie animated.
Yep.
Out of the filmed version of the movie. I think it's visually, it still holds up as an incredible accomplishment.
Yeah, based on a Philip K. Dick story as well. Really interesting movie. Winona Ryder co-starring in that one. For me, and this is tough, but because John Wick, again, I love it. The Matrix, I love it. I think my favorite movie of his is still Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, the first one. It's just... it's to me an infinitely quotable movie, which, you know, that to me is a sign of how much I loved it, right? If I can just pull lines from it, you know, out of thin air and just make vague references to it all the time. That still, you know, one of my all-time favorite 80s comedies. The scene in the mall alone, the chase sequence, just still one of the funniest things I've ever seen, even though it's kind of dated now. And finally, finest performance. I'll go first here. For me, it was his supporting role in the movie The Gift, which, if you recall that movie, that's Sam Raimi back in, oh my goodness, how long ago was that one? It's like 2000, somewhere around there. Anyway, Kate Blanchett playing a psychic medium who gets involved in a murder case when Katie Holmes disappears. Keanu Reeves plays the accused, an abusive boyfriend who is, as it turns out, falsely accused of this murder. And he's got this intensity about him in the first portion of the movie where it's like, oh yeah, this guy's guilty as fuck. But then once you actually get into it, and Kate Blanchett is the only one who's basically defending him. Everyone else basically wants this guy's head. She has a vision and she sees that he is not guilty, that someone else committed the murder. She doesn't know who, but she ends up sort of defending him against the rest of the town. And his shift from, you know, that super cocky, abusive piece of shit asshole boyfriend, I thought was really impressive to the vulnerable, you know, falsely accused. I'm on the witness stand trying to, you know, basically save my own life.
Mm-hmm. So my pick for this is a little known Sam Raimi movie from the early 2000s that he was in called The Gift.
Oh, wow. Isn't that strange?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to explain how that movie unfolded?
So basically,
Were there any psychics involved in this movie?
There might have been a psychic, and Katie Holmes might have disappeared. It's such a different performance from anything you've seen Keanu Reeves do before. Yeah. And I think you're absolutely right. Just the intensity of like the first half of that movie from him is really, really incredible.
Yeah, he's like intensely unlikable. And you're like, good, let this guy fry. But then you end up sort of torn at the end. Well, not at the end, even in the middle, you know, once it's revealed that, oh shit, he didn't actually do it. You still, for me anyway, I'll say that I kind of still wanted him to fry because he is an asshole, right? Like there's, you know, the stuff that he does to, who is it? Hilary Swank is his wife, I think, right? And, you know, he's a complete asshole to her, and yeah, he's cheating and blah, 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 blah. but over time he becomes a more sympathetic character.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, it's that transition that really makes it, the fact that he can be such a garbage human and then still evoke some sympathy from you when you see him being like falsely accused and, his life is in jeopardy. And I don't necessarily think it's a great movie at all,
Right.
but I do think he's great in it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think there are great performances. Giovanni Ribisi is another one who's really, really good in it too. Overall, a decent movie, but this is the movie that when people say Keanu Reeves can't act, this is the movie that and the performance that I point people to. Because, I understand he's made a lot of really bad movies, right? The Matrix, for one. Oh, no, wait, that's your opinion, not mine. And he's been objectionably bad in some of those movies. Objectively bad in some of those movies. But, there's still talent there. And
yes.
And it's on display in this movie, I think, in its finest form.
Well, I think a lot of times people that end up kind of typecast like he has end up getting that knock on them. Mm-hmm. But, I don't think it's very rare that you end up in that position being completely unable to act.
Right.
Just think of like JCVD or Creed 2 with why am I forgetting his name now?
Yeah, Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah, Dolph Lundgren.
Yep.
For the most part, I think people that end up in that position at least have the ability to act.
Yeah,
well.
For sure. I mean, you don't get calls from people like Richard Linklater or Sam Raimi or Gus Van Sant
exactly.
for my Own Private Idaho. You don't get calls from people like that because you are a terrible actor.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. That's the inaugural edition of BFF. Let us know, by the way. Hit us up on Facebook or Instagram. Let us know what you think of this feature, first of all, and also what you think Keanu Reeves' best movie, your favorite movie of his, and what you think his finest performance is. That's about all I got today, Kev. You got anything else?
Nope.
I don't really want to talk to you anymore, to be honest.
Right.
So, plus you still have SARS, apparently.
I do have SARS, yeah.
I'm kind of afraid of getting it over the internet. So
yeah, it's just it's just never ending SARS. So I'm sure it has ways of working its way through.
I'm so glad I don't work with you anymore. That's a beautiful.
Yeah,
thing.
Likewise.
Anyway, I'll see you soon, buddy. Let's wrap it up for now then, and we'll talk again. Yeah, next time on the podcast, I do want to drill down because I still don't know what the fuck Kevin's talking about with The Matrix. It will be its 20th anniversary at the end of March, so about a week from when we're recording this and when we release this. So tune in next time for that and whatever the fuck else we've got, I guess. Mm-hmm. Bye.
That was a great ending.
My favorite one yet.